Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Gameweek 35 with Gameweek 34 still in full flow as we speak. The Forest-Brentford game is going ahead as we speak, and there's also some European matches going ahead which have just kicked off as well, so we will keep you and ourselves updated with those as well as we go through the next 45 minutes to an hour. My name is Fergie, and I'm here with the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour is your arrow so far in Game Week 34?
Well, I'm very well. I've just had a week away. And while I went away, I didn't look at any football at all. And I played my free hit, like most people did. And I think I had my best week for over 2 years.
Over 2 years?
Game
Really?
in terms of the game week rank, yeah, I think so. So got the 100 up for the free hit. There were lots of great weeks going around for a lot of people, so it was a high scoring week. But yeah, I couldn't believe I got the 100. Almost had the perfect back line. I think you maybe did have the perfect back line, didn't you? I was very close to going Jose Sarr, who got the penalty save right at the end for Wolves. But actually, Robert Sanchez overachieved as well and got me a 9-pointer.
Did he get an extra bonus point overnight or something? Because
Did,
you were
right
on
at the
99,
end, yeah.
weren't you?
I was on 99, and they just chucked in that little tonic right at the end to get me the ton up. So yeah, a huge rank gain for me on the week.
Incredible.
Up to 218k or 221k. I mean, that'll probably fall back a little bit tonight if Boomo or Wood go off. But no, really delighted with the free hit and how it panned out. Obviously, there were one or two disappointments like Palmer and Raul, but overall, you can't complain with 100 points on a single game week. I mean, it was the week before I wasn't on because of the holiday, and I think you had Gian on last week, and that was the bench boost week, and that couldn't have been more disappointing, can it? I mean, it was. I'm sure you haven't had a chance to review how that went yet, but it was really a shocking bench boost.
It was awful.
I
think
27 man games or something, whatever I had in my team, and you had 12 doublers as well, didn't you? And I come up with about 79 points or something. So the contrast couldn't have been greater between the 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was an awful bench. It was obviously not to dwell too much on it because we covered it last week. But I think if I would have been honest with myself in terms of who I would have benched, I think I got like 11 points. And you just think all that planning and strategy. But I do want to review the spaffometer in a second, Rich, because I do think there is something to say for, and we said this at the time, it's not a hindsight thing, but there's something to say for how you play these chips chronologically, and in which game, etc., etc. So, we'll review in a sec. But yeah, fantastic week, Rich. And I believe you're only 1 point behind me now. So it's going to be, and you've got a transfer in hand. So,
I know. I mean, so arguably I'm ahead, aren't they? I'm ahead on that value of that transfer. But yeah, it's been very hard reeling you in, mate. It's taken me, well, I haven't quite caught you, but it's taken me about 25 weeks to catch you.
It has.
A long way behind, and it's all set up for us to have a right old ding dong in the last 4 weeks. So really looking forward to that.
It's going to be good. It's going to be interesting. I thought I had a fantastic week. I was really happy. 89. Spurs 1-0 up, apparently. Thank you, FPL.
That was good.
Freddie, Spurs 1 up. Can you imagine, mate? Spurs and United in the Europa League final. Two awful teams, which means that one of them would be in the Champions League next season. Finishing like 15th or 16th. I mean, goodness.
Amazing.
Me. Come on, you Spurs. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I got 89. I was happy all round, really. I did do a last minute switch from Leno to Sarr, which was a very fortunate switch. Got me, I think, a 10 additional points. So I was really happy with that. So I had the double up of Sarr and Aït-Nouri. I had Cucurella. I had Livramento ahead of Trippier. I'm not sure if I missed a trick on Trippier. I could have afforded him, but I just didn't think that he'd been that attacking.
Old self.
I watched Livramento the last few weeks, and he's been superb, really attacking. So I wouldn't say I had bad luck there because obviously it balances out. But there's a 9-point swing there between choosing the other fullback, But that's the way it goes. Murphy, Salah, the disappointing Palmer, obviously, and Diaz. I also went for Raul Jimenez. Which is, so if I'd have gone for Strand Larson, I would have gone for Leno. So I did okay there. Happy with that. Cunha and Isak. I was tempted to captain Cunha, but I just thought that too risky going against Salah. Being a Spurs fan, Liverpool going for it,
and they duly did ding them, didn't they? I
Exactly
mean,
that.
5-1. You'd expect him to get maybe at least two returns in a 5-1 win, but yeah, only got one, didn't he?
We've got our Thursday night correspondent, FPL Freddie, and Buemo yellow card.
Oh, that's handy.
Yellow, yeah. little rank bump, mate. little rank
exactly.
Bump. So I'm 217k, and as I say, only 1 point ahead of you now, and both of us are out for this week, so we can both expect a smallish drop. Let's have a look at the spaffometer. So I've put two smashed it next to our free hit. I think it's probably fair to say we've done that. I put two bins. We spaffed our bench boost, Rich, I think.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely spaffed.
Without doubt.
Wildcard 2 was maybe the one I wanted to revisit. I think actually it may be tough to go for a smashed it, but I do think the butterfly effect of wildcarding in 30 set us up for this run. And if you look at that overall period now, I've had a good rank rise. I think I've gone from about maybe 500k to 200k. You've gone from about 700k to 200k in this period, and you've also got 100% team rating for this week with your team coming up and 2 transfers in the bank. So the wild card enabled this whole run, right? So it'd be interesting to see.
I think so. I think it was an underwhelming first week, but in terms you put the wild card in place for an overall chip strategy, don't you?
Exactly.
And therefore,
that's the wild card.
To have sort of cut your rank from 750 to just over 200, I think you could argue that the wild card's been a success. I would do, because the team is still well set. It's almost like a shame we haven't got a double game week for Villa and City, or Palace and City, or something like that, to say you could take 6 doublers into next week. But I still think it's been a success. And now, of course, people who've still got a wild card in hand haven't really got a double game week to play it to. So the strategy, I think, worked, and it was the right week. 30-31 was the right week to wildcard.
I think so. If we hadn't have wildcarded, then we probably wouldn't have had, even though the bench boost was a dud, everything else has gone okay. So yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think smashed it sounds a bit much, but on this scale of 1 to 3, it's tough to call. If we were on a scale of 1 to 5, I think we'd have like a 2. I don't think it's a smash. I think smashed it would have been, completely their debut week. But anyway, pretty good stuff. And yeah, I suppose it's just
Ian in the chat says a smashed it is fair.
Oh, really? Thank you, Ian. Appreciate that. Let us know in the chat as well what you think, and how you're getting on in the chat as well. We're really, really interested. Just to ask you, Rich, I suppose then. So both of us, as I say, we're in like a point of each other, and we're just outside the top 200k. It's probably fair to say with Forest clean sheets potentially, and if anything happens this evening, I expect we're going to land probably between 220 and 250k. Roughly, I think. So, what are your aspirations? Bear in mind, you're well set up for the coming week. Is a top 100k? Do you think now achievable?
Well, last year I'd went from 280k to 80k in the last 4 weeks, so it can be done. The problem was I was wild carding to a bench boost in game week 35. To a bench boost in game week 36. I still had chips in hand, and there were still double game weeks to come. So the scores were normally going to be higher. What we've got here is a different situation, and probably 4 single game weeks with teams in and around us with very similar setups. So if you look at the ownership of the core squads, it's all about bringing in high upside players now that are going to deliver double figure returns when everyone else doesn't own them. And I think that's going to be the key. So we're going to have to get lucky for you and I in similar scores. We're going to have to get lucky on transfers. We're possibly going to have to go non-template with captain picks and get some variance in our favour.
There's an opportunity this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit too far away. I mean, I've got other goals personally. I really want to stay in the Elite 64 league. Fortunately, last week took me up from to 40th place in that league, and I think
Fine.
the top 50 stay up. I was 64th back in November, so I've managed to climb up a bit. But yeah, I'd like to stay in that just personally. I'd obviously like to beat you.
That goes without saying, mate.
And that's now become a core goal. But yeah, I mean the overall rank, to keep the run of 100Ks going would be lovely. But I am stretching there. I think
it'd be your 18th consecutive.
19th,
it would be your 19th consecutive top 100K finish.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. I still think it's in sight for you, Rich. I think if you have a good week this week, think you're ahead of the curve slightly, in terms of transfers, but also in terms of a couple of players you've got as well. So yeah, best of luck.
Thanks,
I'm in roughly the same boat. I think we're going to need, I think you're right, a little bit of luck. It's been incredibly hard outside of these chips to climb. Even when you think you've had a good week, you could get like a 5 or 10K rise. So I think it's going to be hard. I think the only thing which I feel may give us a chance is where people have used their chips earlier in the season. Not only were they in a sort of false position then come game week 30, their team is going to be set up quite differently from ours now, because obviously when we wildcarded, we were looking ahead to teams like Man City, Villa, Palace, all these teams have got good fixtures now that coming up as well. So we both got good teams this week, whereas there will be a population of players in that top 200K that are still got a hangover and trying to get over the last few weeks. They're on the way down. They're on the way down, whereas we're on the way up. So, but we don't know how many of those there actually are. So it's going to be interesting. But top 100K would be a hell of a finish from here. Lots in the chat around. There's lots of bookings going on in the Forest and Brentford game, and a couple saying that they wouldn't be surprised if there's a red card. Chris Woodstock,
excellent.
Wouldn't be surprised if there's a red card. I love that, Rich. Excellent. It's just it's funny how fantasy just takes over.
That would certainly shake it up for the Mbermo template this weekend.
And Mbermo red will shake it up. You're right. Heather's in the chat. FPL Zeitghoul, FPL Lad. SVRT, Mark, Ian McLaughlin, as you said, Brian, FPL Freddie, Omar, Richie Rich, FPL is in Immortal Trek League, just a tad post and stuff. Says, crikey Fergie, this is almost my bedtime. Apologies, we did have to do it a little bit later this afternoon. Conrad Wyndham is here, David Tillstone, David Kent. Thank you so much to everyone who is joining us. FPL Freddie said, Sharda goal. That's knocked off all the Forest
clean sheets are gone then.
Yeah. I got triple Forest in Telegraph Fantasy Football.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not a Boomo assist, because that really will destroy the
goal. Brandon Johnson scored for Spurs in the first minute.
Ask Freddie who got the assist there.
I'm sure it will come through now. But Forest clean sheet gone, which is good for FPL, because there's definitely a few sells and. Milenkovic's and whatever hanging around, so that will be good for everyone with no owners in FPL. Okay, so for those who hadn't seen this afternoon, the Premier League have confirmed or largely confirmed that there's not going to be any double game weeks for the rest of this season. So it's been confirmed that the expected matches from the effort. Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat, look at the score at the same time. This is the problem with when you're doing this sort of live stuff. That Man City and Palace's matches from Game Week 37 are going to stay as they are. They're going to stay in Game Week 37, so we're not going to have a double. We haven't had absolute confirmation around Villa and Spurs, though it's looking increasingly unlikely now. But I would still say, a lot of us have got Villa players in particular probably just withholding on. They got a good fixture this week, and there is the outside potential of them still doubling in 36, but it is very unlikely by the look. Just say Chelsea have just scored. Jadon Sancho has just scored away to Djurgården as well. So lots of goals flying in at the moment. So Rich, it looks like single game weeks for the rest of the season. Do you want to talk us through how it's looking and what we should be thinking about?
Yeah, great. I think for people who may have held chips over, assistant manager looking to play it in the last 3 weeks, a random bench boost or triple captain that you still got knocking around. I mean, they're going to be immediate reaction is they're going to be disappointed. I mean, the thing is, you're just not going to be able to maximize the output of that chip. You still a chip up on the vast majority of FPL managers out there who've spent all their chips. So that chip is still going to be of value.
Yeah.
You still have 3 weeks of table bonus to go for if you're an assistant manager. You still have an extra set of captaincy points. You still have 4 extra players on a bench boost. So I wouldn't lose too much heart, and I can give you some heart if you didn't play your bench boost in game week 33. You didn't lose out by very much.
Absolutely not.
I think I got 8 points on the week, and I've seen bench boosts out there that got like 2 points because they had a -2 for the bird
Oh
own
my
goal, which
goodness
wiped
me.
out one of the players, and someone didn't turn up, and there were 2 points bench boosts on game week 33.
Brilliant.
So I really wouldn't worry about not having a double. But it is, I guess, good news for people who have spent all their chips, so there isn't any more weeks to navigate through. I think the best thing for people who are chipped out is you don't have to navigate what would have been an awkward game week 37 with,
Absolutely.
say, 3 Palace, 3 Villa, 3 City assets that you might have stuck, and they were all going to blank in that week, which was quite feasible until we got the announcement. So I think you've got to play it as it lies, as they say in golf, and it's all set for 4 exciting game weeks with a lot of upside and a lot of nice fixtures for teams with very attractive assets. So I think that's what we're gonna get into in a minute. I honestly think that having extra transfers or saving transfers is going to be a really wise thing to do for the next 3 weeks, and just make sure you don't spaff those transfers, because you want to not be messing about buying defenders necessarily and tweaking defenders and stuff. You want to be going for high upside, high ceiling, high potential picks that are low owned, particularly if you're chasing. And so that's where I'll be focusing my efforts, I think.
So just before we focus on specific players, Rich, in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
teams, then teams with
Yes.
something to play for, teams
Yes.
on the beach, teams who are maybe underperforming over, and overperforming. Who are the teams you're looking at in terms of those sort of categories?
Yeah, I think there's a big block of teams who are still battling it out for the Champions League places. So all the way down from, say, 3rd place down to about 8th place are battling for those 3 Champions League spots. So Villa, Newcastle, Manchester City, Forest, even down to Brentford, Fulham. All those players are fighting for not just Champions League spots, but also for Europa League and conference spots. Those mid-table teams would be delighted to get into one of the more minor competitions. So tonight's result is really important in relation to that bearing. If Brentford do manage to hold on and win that game, then they come right into it in terms of fighting for the Europa spots, because they have a game in hand on the rest of the field, and they'll be up to almost 50 points as well, and right in the mix. So I like Brentford. Really like their assets. Also like I like Liverpool less so. I think now they've won the title, and that they're sort of down the bottom of the ticker now. I still think Salah is someone that's fine to
Yeah.
hold, but I probably would be looking to come off any other Liverpool assets and looking elsewhere for motivation and that kind of thing. Still think Salah's going to play a lot of minutes, but clearly there's not much to play there with Liverpool, and so I'd probably be looking to move off them. I've got some doubts over Palace assets, actually. I think given the final and the priority of the FA Cup for them, I think they could be assets you could look to move off even as early as this week, given there is no double now, and that they will start to potentially rest players from next week in relation to the final, or certainly limit their minutes, because it is all about that big final. And there's plenty of teams that can be targeted. So Spurs and United in action tonight, clearly prioritising their European ties, and so really teams that play them in the next 2 weeks in particular would be the teams to target. So
And
that's kind of
interestingly,
where I'm at.
just on that, West Ham play Tottenham and then Man United, so they play them one after the other. So Not that West Ham are
Yeah.
tremendously exciting, but they've certainly got an asset or two to keep eyes on. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's interesting. So it's maybe not just thinking about who are the best players in the league. Who from a standard view, there's all these nuances that engaged fantasy managers will probably have a little edge potentially over the ones just thinking, oh, so and so scored this next week, they're going to play. There are factors at play for certain teams, as you say. Definitely Man United and Spurs. I think both managers have come out and said we're going to rotate, and Palace is going to be one as well, aren't they? So it is going to be.
Yes, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, I think you can look at some other small factors and think, well, how much are Arsenal going to rotate this weekend? Arsenal have got Bournemouth at home. Probably they'll heavily rotate because of PSG next week, and then they play Liverpool. So if you look at that 2-game bracket, you can think, well, I can do without an asset like Saka potentially to get 2 games out of an Mbermo or 2 games out of a Jared Bowen or something like that, and therefore it's probably worth making the risk of that switch. Even though Saka is perfectly good to hold and has Everton on the last day, I think it is, or is it Leicester? I can't be quite sure, but he certainly has a good. Oh no, Southampton away.
Southampton,
on the
decent.
last day. So it's tough, but yeah, the big two, the top two, I think can be decommitted from in order to get assets from those fighting it out lower down.
Interesting stuff. And you've picked out a handful of players, some familiar names, some not so. We haven't really had much this season. Do you want to just talk us through your picks for the week?
Yeah, I think the obvious move, and I think probably the most popular double switch will be people will go ahead and sell Saka due to his minutes risk against Bournemouth and bring in that man Brian Mbermo in the front. He's playing Spurs at home. I think this weekend Spurs will probably heavily rotate, particularly
United this weekend.
Also United this weekend, and then Spurs to follow. So those two fixtures, I do think he's a very difficult person to go against if you don't own him. His ownership will probably be close to 50% overall, maybe 100% EO. Probably be the most popular captain this week. So therefore, it makes sense to cover it, even at our rank. That's what it feels like to me. But there are other lower owned upside opportunities. We found out obviously that Marcus Rashford, I think, is going to be out now for most of the season, if not all of the rest of the season, as of today. So all that jeopardy over Ollie Watkins, if you were brave enough to bring him in for the double game week, you're now sitting pretty with an asset that should play every minute or most of the minutes up front for Villa in the rest of the season while they're going for it. He doesn't have penalties, but he doesn't need them really. His returns in the past have proved that. So really like Watkins, and he's on my mind to bring in. Cunha, I managed to watch the highlights back after my holiday yesterday, and what a player, man!
He's incredible,
unbelievable. Yeah, he's definitely going to move, I think, in the summer. But he seems in a happy place right now, and so do Wolves. I mean, what have they won? 6 on the spin,
on the trot.
On the spin,
they're the highest performing team in Europe in the top 5 leagues. 6 on the spin.
Yeah. So I think most of us got Cunha, but we got him on a free hit, so we don't own him.
Exactly.
And now he could well be worth a transfer. The only issue is that this week, most of the template has a decent game. So do you take Marmoush out when he's got a home game to Wolves? Do you take out Mateta, when he's just scored a goal like he has? I just think, it can maybe wait a week, that one.
I think so, yeah.
If you want to go early on Cunha, I don't think it's a bad thing. And then someone I've hardly ever owned in FPL, but always seems to haunt me, is Jared Bowen. I know he's got a lot of talk in the content this week. Scored, I think, 2 consecutive 9-pointers in the last couple of weeks. Really is West Ham's talisman asset, and has some nice fixtures to come. So I think he's got Tottenham this weekend, isn't he?
Tottenham and then Man United,
Yeah, there we are. So he's got the reverse of the Boomer fixtures. So if you've got a double transfer to use, then maybe Mbermo and Bowen in this week will certainly give you an edge on the field. And then Chris Wood, depending on how he does tonight, his stats never look that good, but he keeps on
Scoring
popping
every
up with
game.
great finishing scores every week. I mean, you did me huge damage this season. Not just you, but a lot of people by owning Chris Wood over Calvert-Lewin as the 6 million option, and he's still a good pick given Forest they do have a lot to play for. They're still going for the Champions League, and Chris Wood, I'm sure, will feature again before the end of the season. What do you think of those picks, mate? Where are you looking?
I like them all. I think Cunha can wait a week, so they're away to City, but then they've got 2 home games in their last 3, and I can just see him playing and ripping it up. So I think Cunha, have already marked a transfer for him next week. I think I like Watkins. Just looking at their fixtures, I think they're good from now. Everywhere, I think all these teams either play Spurs or Leicester in the next week or 2 as well. Yeah. Watkins plays, so he's got Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, who have definitely regressed, and then he's got Spurs at home, and then United away actually in 38. So I really like Villa's fixtures. Again, you would look at that normally, Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs, United. If we'd have looked at that maybe 8 or 10 weeks ago, it would have looked a bit meh. But none of those teams are playing that well, and Villa are playing very well.
Tottenham and United could have a Europa final to contest as well.
That.
So that resting of players is just going to continue, isn't it?
This is it. So I really like Watkins as well. I really like Bowen. Again, he's on form. He's the talisman. The fixtures, you say, home to Spurs, away to United, home to Forest will be tough, and then away to Ipswich to finish off in 38. So I think he's got potential for a really strong finish of the season. And just looking at Chris Wood's fixtures as well. Again, you can probably leave him this week, away to Palace, home to Leicester in 36. I mean, as good as it gets. Home to Leicester, away to West Ham, home to Chelsea. What's not to like? So. No. I really think there's a lot of really good options there. I'm interested to see what happens with Marmoush, because Haaland has been back in training this week. He's not going to feature this weekend apparently, but he could be back for 36. Not that I think that. Well, I say that they're away to Southampton in 36. Not that I think that Haaland will play and start ahead of Marmoush straight away in 36, but City's fixture run towards the end is decent. But this front line of Isak, I mean, it's interesting because all of a sudden, normally there's not enough forwards to have any interest. We were even talking about this back in Gameweek 32 and 33. There was only 2 forwards really who were of any interest. All of a sudden there's 5 or 6 forwards. You got Isak.
And we want them all.
You want them all,
wouldn't you? You'd swap the lot out you've currently got for Cunha, Watkins, and Wood,
exactly
for the last
exactly.
3.
But Isak and Marmoush are still probably pretty good in their own right as well, aren't they? So I can't remember who the third template forward is.
I think that's what makes it quite nice, is that we're not all going to be drawn towards like a bunch of kids chasing a football around a playground. We're not all going to be drawn towards the same players over the last 4 games. It's going to create a diverse range of routes that we can go, and that makes for a more exciting game.
Definitely.
I think not everyone's going to go Boomo, not everyone's going to go Cunha. There's lots of options with high upside, and some of us are going to get lucky and some of us are not, and I think that's great. Rather than everybody buying Villa or everybody buying Palace,
absolutely,
it's much better to have it like this.
The third forward in the template is Mateta at the moment, who is who's got Spurs next week. So see, it feels like everyone has got Spurs next week, but all these strikers all play Spurs in the next, and as a Spurs fan, it hurts me to say, but it's just a free for all at the moment. Anyone can score against them. But yeah, I know I really like them targets, mate. Just to touch on defence, there are a couple of good defensive options, but I do think that there's lots of us with Man City, Aston Villa, whose fixtures are decent. A lot of us use the majority of our transfers towards the bench boost before the free hit. So we've only got maybe 1 or 2 left now. Some will have more, obviously, but can't really get that excited about using defensive transfers when we've got okay ones. It's all about the goals now, isn't it?
It doesn't really feel, unless you've got like 2 or 3 injuries, it doesn't really feel like you want to swap them out. I mean, you might want to take out, say you had Trent and you brought him in last week for Liverpool's title game. You might want to use something like that as a cash cow in order to buy a high upside forward or buy a high upside mid. I think that's fine, particularly if you're maybe taking out a Murphy or you're taking out a lower rent and you want to get in a player like Bowen or Boomo in. I think Boomo's quite expensive now, isn't he? About 8.1, I think. maybe 8.2 by the weekend. So yeah, I think it's fine. But yeah, generally speaking, I would definitely focus the transfers on mids and forwards towards the end.
And these mids and forwards as well. Obviously, we're only probably picking out the optimal pick from all these teams, but there are alternatives in all these teams. Obviously, with Cunha, there's Strand Larson, there's potentially Manetzi, Bellegarde as well, Nori in defence and stuff. For Watkins, Asensio, maybe now get more minutes with Rashford out. Everyone should have Rodgers.
And we've both been big fans of Wissa this evening.
This is another one. That's a seventh forward. Wissa is we haven't really mentioned it, but he's on the thumbnail, and he's he could be in anyone's team, so he's definitely one as well. Sharda has been. He's scored this evening. Sharda's been on form recently. He's been getting minutes as well. Maybe not so much for Bowen. I think full Krug will be a hard sell. But I'll just say United are 1-up. Thank you, FPL Fergie, Casemiro. So all the British teams, all the English teams are leading in the first half. Good for English football. Maybe not so good for FPL because it will mean more rotation. And Chris Wood, there are some options there as well. Maybe not. Gibbs White he's been booked in the first half. It doesn't feel like he's returned for age, but Hudson
Elanga was the hero the other week.
This is it. So there's definitely options there in those teams, but the focus should be probably on those teams. Interesting stuff. United are 1-0 up away. Okay, so let's take a look. Now that predicted points from now until the end of the season, we're in reach now. We're in the 4-week horizon, includes Gameweek 38. Okay. So from this moment onwards, there's no more future facing after this. It's when it gets, this is business time now. So top of the shop, unsurprisingly, still Salah, 29 points. So even though the fixture's not the best, he's just Salah. He's probably going to play every game. They've won the league. They've got no finals to play for. He's far away the top, 29.3. Isak in second as well, 23. Cunha is third in this list, 22.8. Again, I think I'll definitely be bringing in Cunha next week. I think we can get away with him this week, but next week onwards. And Buemo, we've been talking about, and Wissa, both on 21.9. Marmouche is still up there, 21.4. And De Bruyne, actually, City's fixtures are good. Watkins, we talked about. Go on, mate.
What did you make of I wasn't here, but what did you make of the De Bruyne benching at the weekend? Do you think that's good for his FPL prospects, or it was a bit surprising, wasn't it, to see him left out at Wembley?
It was. They've just got so many options, mate. You just don't know what they get. I try to make head or tail of the tactics as it's explained to me, but I just can't, and I just think really it's just incredibly hard to predict with any certainty with De Bruyne. If you've got De Bruyne, you're obviously playing this week. But if you're tossing up between going for Mbeumo and De Bruyne, you go Mbeumo every day of the week because he's going to play and he's on penalties. So I think if you've got De Bruyne, you play him. I think you haven't got him, you look elsewhere because it's just rotation. And with Haaland back, that will mix things up even further because Marmouche was playing every game, even Haaland was there, probably in the spot which De Bruyne is occupying now. So that'll just make things even worse.
You've got De Bruyne's swan song and goodbye and all that to factor into it, haven't you, as well? But it doesn't necessarily he's going to get 90 minutes, does it? But he'll
probably get 88. He'll probably get 88 and get clapped off. But
I mean, it still feels good to have him because I got him in for the bench boost, so it feels good to have him. But I just was a bit surprised and wanted to ask if there was anything that I missed in relation to his bench.
I don't think so, mate. I think he just picked another forward line as he tends to do, as Spurs are doing at the moment as well. We're trying to. We were running through predicted lineups for the weekend, and Spurs are just an absolute minefield. He keeps making halftime substitutions. Just haven't got any idea what sort of 11 he's going to play from week to week. Wood 20.4 points. Luis Diaz 20.3. He's had very good expected minutes recently, playing well as well. Palmer is still hanging about like a bad smell, and then Mateta, and then we go down. But those top 10 look, a fairly predictable, I think. FPL Friday just said United penalty potentially incoming. That would be good for United. I think there were massive odds against this evening against Athletic Bilbao. Interesting stat I heard on the radio this morning, Rich, about Athletic Bilbao. They only field homegrown players, apparently.
Oh, really?
I think that's right. I think that's who they were talking about. But yeah, they only ever field homegrown players, which is really, really interesting. So yeah, those are the predicted points. Brentford, Man City, Villa, Liverpool, Forest, the sort of team we were talking about.
Those two Brentford guys, 20, 24 or 23 and a half odd points just between Burma and Wisso. The double up doesn't look a bad shout, does it really there?
No, absolutely not, mate. And interestingly, in terms of defence, right at the bottom, you've got Trent at 7.2. So again, it just sort of leans into what we're saying about the points. The high upside picks are up front. I really like the thought of a double up. I like, if Brentford go and play Spurs and beat them, which could happen easily, sort of 3-1 or 4 or 4-0 or something, and you get the Mbuemo assist for Vissa and then the reversal and stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Red card for Bilbao and a penalty for United, so they are massively in the driving seat now. If they can score this, it'll be Bruno. I'm assuming that will be massive. But yeah, they are the predicted points for the remainder of the season. Hub AI Gameweek 35 wildcard team. So this is not so much for those with wildcards left, because there won't be many, but it's looking at who the AI is picking as good picks for the rest of the season, and and the kind of profile of the team is picking as well. So it's gone for Henderson and Leno at the back. Gvardiol, Trent Alexander-Arnold, O'Brien from Everton, who is very cheap, and we haven't mentioned Everton yet, just to say Spurs 2-0 up as well now, so it looks like Spurs and United, United, they looks like they may be heading to a Europa League final clash. Everton have got home to Ipswich in 35, away to Fulham in 36, and then home to Southampton in 37. So Everton have got some really nice fixtures, and O'Brien makes it in at 4.5 million for them. Kyrgios and Milenkovic make up the back five there, and then unsurprisingly Salah and Mbuemo. Luis Diaz makes the wild card team. I say he's playing 90 most matches at the moment. Sarr still squeezes in, and Semenyo, and then a good three of Isak, Vissa, and Cunha. James Maddison has scored for Tottenham 2-0 to the Spurs. We still haven't had this penalty. Ian McLaughlin says the chat has turned into the video printer, trying to do about 16 things at the same time. There was a comment further up that can't multitask. Absolutely, it's very difficult.
Exactly. Well, interesting wild card. There are quite a few who sort of look into wild cards, maybe a bench boost double and that kind of stuff. So there are a few of you out there. A bit surprised at the Sarr pick. I know he did very well at Wembley, but he's been pretty quiet since the wild card. I'd probably try and have Bowen in there over Sarr. I think if it was me, and I might take some of that money out of Diaz, and maybe if I was going to have one Palace asset, I might have Eze over Sarr. But it's just based on recent form. These are small points. The sort of O'Brien pick, it's okay, but would you still have Trent on a wild card, or do you think I'd think they're going to play Bradley quite a bit, aren't they?
I don't think I would. I don't really like the fixtures. Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, I can see are in view. They're the first three. I don't really fancy a clean sheet in any of those. Maybe the Chelsea game. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd have Trent in there, but I guess it's still looking at Trent as first pick. It's still looking at Liverpool as the champions,
exactly that,
likely to win most games. So it takes away the, I guess, the beach on the beach waiting. I guess, doesn't it? Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes scored that penalty, so both Spurs and United are 2-0 up, and looks like they're heading towards a Europa League final. Mind you, both of those teams are capable of losing dramatically from this position as well. So we will see.
With Harry Maguire winning it in extra time once again.
They're both dog shit. Let's be honest. So we don't know what's going to happen in these matches. Best captain for this week, and this is potentially a chance, Rich, to go against the grain, because I do think it's really tight this week. Predicted points has Salah out in front at 7 points, with Isak and Mbeumo and Vissa right behind on 5.6. But the poll has gone for Mbeumo top with 31% of the vote against United. And then Salah just behind with 26%, and then Isak and Marmoush. But a massive spread of votes. Well, Rich, you were saying earlier, need to make, you need to try something different. Like, surely Salah away to Chelsea is not the one to go. I don't think I'll be captain Salah this week.
I don't think it's. I mean, that game could be anything, couldn't it? That could be 2-2. It could be a boring 1-0 win for either side.
I just can't see Liverpool going there and winning like 3-0.
No.
What? We'll clip this now and they'll go and win 3-0. But it doesn't feel like that kind of fixture at the moment, does it?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's definitely a week to take it on. With a low owned differential. So I like Bowen. I really like Bowen as again to Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham will, Tottenham. I mean, they will play the reserves, won't they, against West Ham? They will literally rest everybody who wins tonight. Almost everybody, right?
The only thing I'd say against Spurs is they have got actually a pretty good 22 in terms of they haven't got an outstanding 11 and a decent back at 22. They're all pretty much of a muchness. If they replaced almost their whole 11, they would still have 11 very familiar sort of players. So
recognizable
names. Instead of Bentancur, they'd have Papa Sarr. And that instead of
Porro would come in and stuff like that.
I don't think Kulusevski, he might be, but I don't think he's playing this evening, for example, in place of Maddison or something. They've still got a very recognisable and good team. So it's going to be interesting to see. But they're really still awful at the back. So
it's just that kind of inevitability about Mbeumo. If you don't, you don't own him, because I've owned him for about half the season, and when I haven't owned him, he's scored double figure returns, and when I have, he's just ticked along. So it's going to be a huge ownership you're taking on there with the captaincy. But if everyone in the top, say 200k is going in Mbeumo, what's the point of going in Mbeumo? We're just treading water, aren't we?
But do you think they will? Do they?
Well, I
still think that Salah. I still think that Salah will be the highest captain player. Yeah, I think so. He's top of all the models. He's top of most of the polls, I think. For what I've seen on X earlier.
I thought FPL Review was going Mbeumo. That's probably just another piece of content I read earlier, but it was. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's tough. It's definitely a good week to take it on, where there's no obvious standout thrashing there, because all the promoted teams, or two of the promoted teams, are playing each other.
This is it. It's definitely not a standout match.
No whipping boy there. And who Ipswich got? Have Ipswich playing Southampton, is it? And Leicester are playing. Who's the other promoted team that isn't playing?
Let's have a look. Ipswich have got Everton away.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's not to get excited about this. It's going to be bringing really. Beto in and dying.
No, not really. No, it's not a week to take on the promoted teams like last week. No. So if I bring in Mbeumo in, probably like to captain him. I don't know why, but
no, I like it, mate. I think it's good. I think it's the right move. I think I'll probably be doing the same if I bring him in.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Fergie is a complete punt for game week 35. We talked about this player actually quite a lot this week, but his ownership is reasonably low. But I really like him for this week. I just as a Spurs fan, I just constantly sort of got my head in my hands at the moment, and Gian bigged up this player quite a lot last week, and he returned. He was away, but he returned with 2 assists. We've mentioned him already. He's a talisman, but compared to a lot of the other players, he's not as highly owned. He's not sort of in the template. So I really like Jared Bowen for this week and for the running actually, and playing home to Spurs. Oh, it's such a painful watch as a Spurs fan at the moment. So I fancy Bowen. They're home to United. Home to Spurs this week. They're away to United next week. So definitely playing for the next 2. home to Forest is a bit tougher, but they are at home, and then away to Ipswich in 38. So I think if you bought him in this week, you're not just buying him for 1 or 2 weeks. I think you're buying him for the rest of the season, and you can just sit. You can just utilize your transfers elsewhere there. So I really like Bowen, and I'm not sure of his ownership actually. I did.
What's his price now?
It's not on the screen. I'll take a look, mate. If you could have a look while I shift you around here, but yeah, I just it's target Leicester, target Spurs defense at the moment, and potentially United as well in the league. So Bowen is for me for this week.
I really like that, mate.
Rich, we've got your team on screen now, and I didn't realise you've actually got 2 transfers in the bank still as well, haven't you? And you've also got 100% game week rating pre-transfer this week. So do you want to talk us through your team and your thinking for this week?
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go Raya in goal over Areola, despite the Tottenham game.
I think Spurs will score, but
I think Spurs have always got a game in them. Guardiola obviously makes it at home to Wolves, Munoz, and at the moment here, Kiwior makes it, but there is a chance of rotation, so I'm quite glad I've got the reliable Concert on the bench as cover. So if Arteta hints at rotating the centre back, so I'd probably bring in Concert ahead of Kiwior and only go one Arsenal at the back. I have Salah, De Bruyne, Sarr, and Saka at the moment in the midfield, and the template of Isak, Marmoush, and Mateta up front. I'm not sure what the AI has given me. It said Captain Salah here because he's got
Salah's got the highest rated points.
I think my transfer. I'm thinking of doing one transfer, and that's the obvious one, which is to reduce the minutes risk of Saka and bring in Mbeumo for Saka, and then have a couple of mil in the bank on the back of that, or 2.4 million on the bank on that, and then carry the second transfer because everybody else has got a decent fixture. I still think Palace will put out a strong side this week. I am worried about having 3 Palace assets going into game weeks 36 and 37 because they've got the cup final either side of that. So it would be, I think, a more aggressive play for me to do Saka to Mbeumo and Sarr to Bowen. Because we've just been talking him up. I can do that for free this week, and then that would give me a middle line of Salah, De Bruyne, Bowen, and Mbeumo. So I think that would be quite nice this week, wouldn't it? And then captain Mbeumo.
Yeah, that is nice. I think there you've got a really nice blend. You've got the template, but you're taking out the kind of rough edges of the template and you're replacing them with the shiny ones for the next week or two. So
I mean, it could always go back from if De Bruyne gets his send off in game week 37. I think that's a home game, right? The City have in 37. The Bournemouth game, which is the one they were talking about moving. Then I could do De Bruyne to Saka in the last day and just bring Saka back for the Southampton fixture. I mean, I know it's kind of like not transfer efficient, but it means there's an easy route to him if I wanted to get him back. So yeah, I think I might. You've got to think about. We're running out of weeks, aren't we? So just saving a transfer to sort of maybe spend it later on. You've got to go aggressive now and maybe go for those 2 upside picks at once. And it's not the week for Cunha.
No, I agree. You can wait another week.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably what I'll do. Is that double transfer?
Very, very nice, mate. Your recommended transfer on HubAI, your optimized transfer was Saka to Mbeumo, and your aggressive recommended transfer Saka to Mbeumo and Mateta to Vissa. So it does actually fancy that Brentford double up.
Fancies the Brentford combo,
in attack.
It's doing the same thing, isn't it? It's offloading some of that Palace risk.
Exactly.
Getting it done early and really playing the upside. So yeah, I'll have a look at that as well.
But that is the aggressive one. So that does focus on the quite on the short term. But as you say, if you've got 2 transfers, mate, you're well set. Exciting times. And I think you're looking good. Looking at my team ahead of the weekend, I've got 97% team rating. I will play Raya. I've got Gvardiol, Munoz and Ruben Diaz.
Nice.
Against, though I do fancy Wolves to score. I got to be honest, they're on form. I've also got Timber, who I definitely won't be playing because he's been in and out of the team. I've got Conser as well, so I might play Conser ahead of either Ruben Diaz or Gvardiol. I'm not sure yet. Salah, Saka, Sarr and Rogers, Isak, Marmoush and Mateta. I've got Murphy as well, and I've got Martinez, but I think I'm going to play Raya, especially if I'm not playing Timber. So I've only got one transfer, and I'll probably be doing Saka. I think I'm going to do Saka out definitely, and it's either going to be to Mbeumo or Bowen yet. I'm not 100% sure.
Ricky Rich FPL says in the chat, he says, "What about Saka to Mbeumo and Sarr to Bowen for a -4?"
That's what I'd be doing. That's what I'd be doing.
I mean, it still sounds good, doesn't it?
It does.
4 games to go.
It does, but it does mean that Bowen or Saka are going to outscore Sarr by a minimum of 4 points. And Sarr is home to Forest, and Sarr is playing. He just scored 2 goals.
He's got a good game, isn't he? And he's on form.
That's the thing. So I'm tempted to not take a hit, only because if my team was really struggling, then but I got Jacob Murphy on the bench who can't, who can't stop returning. So it's not like my team is struggling. If I was struggling, if I was putting out an 11th man like Timber, I wasn't even sure would play, then I'd definitely be tempted to take a hit. But so I would say Ricky Rich. I would only do it if your team is struggling to get 11 out personally, because I think you can wait a week. But I'm saying that, Cunha is going to be a man I think Cunha actually scores this weekend against City away. And then he will be in very high demand for next week. Haven't really looked at the fixture. Forest at home to mind you, Wood's going to be the captaincy option next week. He's home to Leicester, so we're going to have to find a way of getting bloody Wood in next week. That's right.
If you don't spend your 2 transfers next week, you can start taking apart that forward line next week, particularly if Haaland comes back, can't you? You can say Marmoush and Mateta out for Wood and Cunha. I mean, that's
and then in the 37, Villa are home to Spurs, which it'll be an Ollie Watkins train. So it's interesting. I'm tempted to jump after the team who are playing Spurs. So if that's the case, I'd go for Bowen. I could go Bowen captain, which is dangerous, but it gives me that bit of upside potential.
You've got to hope that you get some variance and that not the whole field owns that player. So maybe you've got to get Mbeumo in to cover the ownership.
I'll see. I'm on the precipice now. Normally I'm on the precipice at game week 23, or at least I've got to game week
on the edge of a cliff.
Or at least I've got to game week 35, but I'm on the precipice now. I think I'm not gonna template my way to a top 100k from here. I don't think.
No. I don't think.
That's my sense. So I don't want to take hits because I don't think I have to take hits yet. I don't feel I have to. I think Sarr, for example, has got as much a chance of scoring well as Mbeumo this week. I do. But obviously, we'll get the team news, and I normally have my, I cook my sausages on Saturday morning, and depending how well I've cooked them, depends how angry I get, depends what mood I'm in to make transfers. Actually, it's Friday evening tomorrow.
Friday night deadline. So you'll be going to get your fish and chips.
Cooking my fish and chips. If the batter's a bit soggy on my fish, mate, I'm taking a hit.
Exactly.
I'm taking a hit. So, but yeah, we'll see. Transfers. Saka to Mbeumo is recommended for both my default and aggressive transfer this week. So it is sensible.
Yeah.
Wonder if Mbeumo's ownership I'm maybe not as convinced as you, Rich, potentially that Mbeumo's ownership is going to, his EO is going to be like massively over 100%.
I think it was overall ownership is something like 38%, I think. But I think it's gonna rocket
increase
up by the weekend. Well, it depends if he has a quiet one tonight. And I think I haven't seen any updates in the chat. I think that game's still 1-0 to Brentford.
It is. It's about
with
20,
60-70
yeah,
minutes
it's
gone.
about 20-25 minutes left in that one. So,
but he does tend to pop up at the end with late points, doesn't he, Burmo?
It's gonna be,
so it's not over. So if he stays quiet though, that might keep the ownership down and cause people to look elsewhere.
Smashed it in 33, didn't he? He smashed it in a double game week when everyone took him out. Yeah. FPL Lard says a soggy batter ruins many a mood.
Yeah,
do you know the fish and chip shop around the corner from me have just started selling Mars bars in batter, which I know is a complete novelty, right? But I never tried them.
You'll be popular with your stag do colleagues if you take.
I will indeed. But I walked past the other day with my kids, and they were like, "Oh, look at that!" Blah blah blah. So we got one and we chopped it up into 4. We all had tasties, and you know what? It was surprisingly, it was all right. It was as you expected it to be. It had the sweet inside. But the it was all right. It's not it's not gourmet. It's not something I would like.
How much are they then?
This was only like £2. So I was
nice.
I was quite surprised. But yeah, I cut into 4. We all had a bite each, and it was nice. So yeah, I'm going. Yeah, as you mentioned there, Mitch, I'm going on a stag do this weekend with 20 Scotsmen to Tenerife, which is going to be. Goodness me, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting weekend. So we'll see if I make the pod next Thursday, even though I'm only going for a few days. But yeah. Anyway, enough about all that. And that is it from us this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Those who are going to watch it back, those listening on the podcast versions, your support is very much appreciated. And Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter and Blue Sky.
My handle is at FFH_Fergie. Don't forget, you can also catch us at FFH_Green Arrow. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, where the podcast version is available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We will be back next week, looking ahead to game week 36. Which is currently looking like a single game week. I would just say, don't make any transfers this evening unless you're going to be priced out. There still is an outside chance of a double being announced tomorrow, but it is very outside.
Especially if Spurs win that game, they'll be pushing really hard.
Exactly. So I would just hold off, and make your transfers at sort of 5 o'clock or 5:30 tomorrow.
Because you may well also get the City line up tomorrow night, and you might find that De Bruyne's not playing, or Diaz isn't playing, and it gives you a chance to sell someone who is not used benched. So yeah, definitely last hour transfers.
Exactly. Don't miss the deadline tomorrow evening at 6:30. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic game week 35, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.